doing what you all might imagine SWAT officers do. From there, I did promote to the rank of sergeant, and my first assignment was back to Southwest Houston, at that time what we called Fondren Division, both patrol and then running a team similar to what our crime suppression teams are titled and do now. Promoted to lieutenant, went for a short period of time to our vehicular crimes division, and then was fortunate to go over to our criminal intelligence division, working in a capacity of homeland security, dealing with our federal partners, dealing with issues that might be a threat to us from a local, state, federal, foreign threat, and also homegrown and foreign potential extremism. It was then I made commander, captain at that time, but commander now is what we call it, and took over our special operations division. And that's where I started overseeing operations that were consider things of public order, crowd control, protest activity, First Amendment activity, major events, be it national championships, whatever, concerts, all of those types of things that we might run into. The city has hosted over many decades, and in my opinion, we've have done a really great job taking care of and representing the city, and I'm proud of that. Then I was fortunate to make assistant chief. Former Chief Art Acevedo appointed me to assistant chief in 2017, and I think it was in April that I actually was appointed, and then I took over our Homeland Security Command, and again was doing much of the same things, but at the assistant chief level, handling issues of threat, issues of protest, handling COVID-19 when it hit our city and it hit the nation, and setting up our testing centers around our major stadiums. All those things, major hurricanes, Hurricane Harvey that hit us, just our World Series championships that we had here in the city. I'm very proud of the Astros. So we had all of those things, and those were really my shop as the chief over the Homeland Security Command. And then, as you probably already know, with a little short bit of research, in 2021 I was promoted to executive assistant chief and took over our field operations. And our field operations, which I had as of yesterday, before my appointment, is over patrol. So I have a little over, at that time, and have had for the last 3 years, a little over half the department, a little over 3,000 of the 6,000 employees were under my command. And for those of you who don't know, field operations is your patrol divisions. We have 15 patrol divisions in the city. In addition to that, we have both Bush and Hobby and Ellington Air Force Base. We have a role there. So the airports. I also had the traffic enforcement division, which handles the whole city. And then I had the mental health division. So again, much of my role, my responsibility, was responding to you when you called for the help. When you called 911, when we had a problem in the community on our roadways, with any kind of road rage or anything like that, all of those things would fall into my command. Now, know this, I mean, I had 3 assistant chiefs, and I had 15 commanders, and all those officers. So it's not like I'm out there doing all those things. It's the men and women of the Houston Police Department that are all out there doing the best job they can, responding to those things. And of course, and for me as a support, trying to help them accomplish those things. So that is kind of some of the things about me and what I've done in my career with the Houston Police Department. And I'll take questions on that later for you if you have any questions in that regard or anything else. A little bit about Chief Troy Finner. I do want to acknowledge his service here. He did 34 years. Chief Finner, Troy, to me, started the department, started the police academy a full 2 months ahead of me, or 8 weeks. We were in the academy together, and he also went out Southwest. So he did do everything he could, I think, to help. So I really want to acknowledge that and thank him, because he was the one that did promote me to executive assistant chief in 21. Houston Police Department's mission hasn't changed. Regardless of who's sitting in the seat of the chief and making those decisions, our job is to protect the public. It's to be out there, to be available, to try to make a difference for those people who have no one else to look out for them, who have no, we have a lot in our community that live on the margins, live in areas that have high crime, and have no way of making it better or moving or some of those types of things. And we're all they have. So my job, the mission of the Houston Police Department, is to serve the public and protect everybody out there. That hasn't changed. It did not change as of today. It's been the same for my entire career and before. And I want to say that I am honored to be in this role right now, however it occurred, because I am so proud of the men and women that I get to work with every day, and it's them that keep us going, and I appreciate that. And it's you all as the public who support us, because I have often bragged on camera to many of you that I've been fortunate to be able to travel not just the country but also the world, and the support that we have here from the community, I say, is second to none, and I really appreciate that. And again, I'm very proud of that. So before we go to questions, I think it's important for us to acknowledge something. Is there water? This is Police Week, and we did a prayer this morning just outside our headquarters, and I really appreciate all the men of faith and women of faith that showed up for that, and all the public and our officials that showed up for that. I want to take this chance again, this opportunity, to recognize the service of so many, and most importantly, the 121 men and women who have given their life for the city, for their families who have lost their members of their family, dads, moms, brothers, sisters, sons, daughters. I cannot imagine what those families go through every day, and it's my job to take care of them too. And this is the week more than any other, because we're always honoring, but this is the week more than any other that we want to remember them and recognize them and take care of them, because they will always be HPD family. So that's important to me. So with that said, I think it's time that I'll go to questions. So to make this work best is probably go from left to right, and maybe a couple of rounds of questions, if that's fair to everybody. You may want more, and we'll see how things go. I do think it's important again to emphasize, and this is not an excuse, but it is a fact, that I took over last night at 10:30, and my role has been in the department and has been for some time, but certainly in the last several months, still has been the field operations chief to handle things that are in the fielding happening now, while my former boss, Chief Troy Finner, and Executive Assistant Chief Band 10, and so many of my other colleagues have worked on these cases that I'm sure you're going to ask about, the SL issues that we're dealing with and all the other things. So my focus has been external, outward, responding to calls, handling the things that are happening right now. It's also been to manage some overtime funds that the mayor and council gave us for additional overtime, because we are short. That's been said ad nauseum, but we are short, and those overtime funds are helping us out in many ways to try to tamp down violent crime. We still have challenges. Not to mention our Southeast Texas Crime Reduction Initiative that we launched in January under the direction of the mayor, and he gave that to me, where I have multiple agencies that we're meeting with every month, and then of course we have operations occurring weekly to combat road rage, aggressive driving, to find and arrest those fugitives that are out there, especially the violent ones, and to attack our areas and try to bring crime down in our hardest hit neighborhoods and areas. So those are kind of the three pillars of that initiative. And I thank my colleagues across the region, all the counties and all the municipal agencies and the state DPS for helping us out in that regard. So I say all that to say my focus has been outward. Now that I am the acting chief of police and now responsible for all these other things, I am still getting caught up in a lot of things that were happening through that investigation. So please bear with me, be patient. I'll answer what I can, and if I have to get back to you, I promise I will. So with that, let's go to questions.
Yes, and now that you're talking about these cases, do you have an idea if this investigation is going to happen? What do you know about all these cases?
What I know, well, I mean, so we have the case that the discovery that cases have been suspended. That's already been said, and it's heavily been written on in the news. And that's been the effort to go back and try to go back through all of those cases and try to reach some resolution, figure out what happened in those cases, each one, every single case, if possible. What happened? Is there more that we can do with it? Is there not more than we can do with it, and it was possibly miscoded? There was a lot of cases miscoded, but I think it's very important to state that even with all of that, we still have real victims, okay? And so for that, we need to do everything we can to help them, to try to bring resolution to as many as we can, and try to just own this and go forward. So that is ongoing. The effort to get through I think the number has been 260,000. That's been quoted pretty often. It's taking time. Our focus primarily are on the issues that were, or the cases that were involved person-on-person violence. And I think you all would agree that would be the most important ones to focus on first. And that's what we're trying to get through. And we're hopeful that in the very near future we'll have seen all those cases and worked on that and made an impact for those people who were harmed in that. The property crime ones are a little bit. There's also those. Those could take a little bit longer. Again, it's the sheer volume is going to mean a longer effort to try to take care and go through all of those cases and bring some type of resolution that's appropriate to them. Again, most importantly, for the persons who were harmed, and then for the public in general, knowing that their police department is working hard for them. And we're trying not to let anything get by us. So did I answer your question? Okay.
How early were you aware of the missing cases and the coding
Say that again, please.
How early were you aware of this issue of the missing cases and the miscoding, as you put it?
So for me, that's a little bit harder question to answer. I know that there's been much talk about 2021 and a meeting at the command staff, executive staff level. And while that meeting was on my calendar, and I remember something about it, that week, and specifically that day, I was focused on the large event at NRG Stadium, the concert that was going to occur over the Friday and Saturday. And I actually had a walkthrough that started at 11 o'clock. The meeting you're talking about, I think, was 10 o'clock at 11 o'clock. I simply don't remember much about it. I remember something about it, and I know that doesn't sound great, but I remember something about it, but it wasn't my focus. Because as a field operations chief, and we're looking outwardly at operations and things that are happening in the moment, I wasn't as focused on that. Certainly, I believe it was on the agenda, and I remember something about it. I just don't remember enough about it, and that might be because I left that meeting very early to be at NRG for the walkthrough for that event, which was my focus at the time.
Just so we don't have to go back to that, just to piggy off of that, what makes, we have Chief Finner saying the 2018 memo, he kind of said the same thing, that he had no recollection. Here you are standing here saying something very similar. Mm-hmm. What makes your position any different than Troy Finner's?
I'm not sure that it does, in the sense that I can only tell you what I remember. And now I've racked my brain on all of this and trying to remember if there's anything else. And I don't. It doesn't mean that something wasn't said. I just don't remember. It was over 2.5 years ago, and it wasn't normally what I would be focusing on in my role. It's a big department with so many responsibilities, and this is going to sound like an excuse, and I don't mean for it to do that. I really don't. But what I'm saying is that field operations, patrol, responding to calls, traffic enforcement division, road issues, mental health division, these are all things that are happening today. Right now, they're happening out there. And as of yesterday, those were my focus and my responsibility. Now my focus is on the whole department. But I just don't recall much more than I remember something about it, but nailing it down to a specific conversation on cases that were suspended due to lack of manpower, which is what we're talking about, I'm struggling to go there and remember all of that. So I don't really have a good answer for you.
Wait, we're going to go back in line.
Yeah.
So Juan.
But can we stay on this line of questioning for a second?
My guess is he's going to stay on that line.
Make sure we don't misquote you here.
Right.
So I understand you weren't even at, or for that entire meeting on November 4th, 2021. But did you know about this code after that? Like, was this part of a discussion that you knew about happening at the department? The mayor, and I asked this because the mayor said this morning that as far as he knows, you didn't even have any recollection of the code. So we just want to see if.
Well, that's my problem, and and all I can tell you is what I remember. And I don't remember those types of details. I remember it was on the agenda. Okay, so I see the agenda, and I can see that agenda for that day, that was on the agenda, which I think was something along staffing for Special Victims Division. And it seems like I remember something about it, but I just don't remember enough. I was just focused elsewhere. Is that my fault? Maybe so, but I'm just telling you what I remember and what I don't. And I think that's important.
But prior to that meeting, you never heard of this code before? You never knew it was being used ever?
I have no knowledge of knowing anything about that. I don't do investigations. I haven't done investigations since the early 90s when I might have done a couple of robbery investigations on that DTU that I discussed earlier as a part of my career. So ever since then, it's been other operations, other responsibilities, other missions. So I don't remember anything about that. I certainly do not remember ever personally suspending one or, for lack of manpower or anything like that. It doesn't sound right to me, and I just don't remember it, though. And so that's where I have to stay because it's been years, and I simply don't.
Okay, that's been asked and answered. We're going on back to Juan.
I'm not quite sure you answered my question though, because you're talking about that specific meeting, but if you don't remember that, when is the first time?
So it was very obvious that we had a problem, I think, going into the end of last year is where it really came to the forefront. And then, of course, then the investigations and trying to figure out what was going on and how things happened. Somewhere in that time frame is where it started to become more known to everybody.
Okay, Juan.
Chief, you said earlier that, through all of this investigation, you've been focused more outward crime-fighting efforts.
Yes, sir.
The mayor earlier today talked about that all these issues and the recent revelations of the former Chief Finner, that this has become a growing distraction for the department. It's been affecting efforts to fight crime. I wanted to get your perspective. Do you think that this has become a distraction from the department, that this is impacting crime-fighting efforts, which the mayor said should be the #1 focus of the department?
I'll go backwards on that. It should be the #1 focus on the department, is fighting crime. So it's a challenge. We have fantastic men and women that are out there, and they're trying very hard to respond to calls, do investigations, and there's a lot of good work being done. But for me to stand here and tell you this hasn't impacted their morale, to say it hasn't impacted their efforts out there, because no one likes this, and everybody, we all take pride in our work, and this is hard. This is hard to be here and to be going through this. It's been 34 years, trying to make the department better, and we have, and there's fantastic people. But this is a tough one for us, and more importantly, there are people out there that are real victims. And so this is not easy, and the men and women see this, hear this, and they want better. They do. They deserve better.
So just to be clear, is February when Chief Finner mentioned all of this the first time that you really recognized that the spend code was an issue within the department?
I want to say it's actually towards the end of 23, early 24, in January and all. I had a lot of things going on. It still was not my focus because in my current role. But I think that's when the discussion started happening. Hey, we have a problem here somewhere in there. And I don't think it was that long before it was zeroed in, nailed down. And I hate to get into specific dates because I'll be wrong. And so I don't have anything before me, but it's in the beginning of the year time frame, the end of last year, beginning of the year this year, that we really started looking hard at it. And I started really getting made fully aware of what's going on. And I still did not know the magnitude of it until later, until we really dug deep. I don't even know when the number of 260 was first said, but it seems like that was possibly days or weeks before we started digging in, and then we discovered everything. So it's, yeah, I mean, I know it's, you want me to nail down to a specific day. I don't have one for you, but it's in that time frame.
Were you interviewed as part of the IED investigation or asked to provide a statement, or are you truly trying to get up to speed on how exactly what's happened and decisions in terms of?
So I am truly trying to get up to speed on everything. You know, I'm not allowed, we're not supposed to talk about active investigations. I recently did, I was recently asked a question that I answered, and that's kind of where I have to stay. And that's, I mean, and I'm always going to be truthful with y'all. If I, you know, if I remember, I remember. If I don't, I don't. But in that regard, beyond that, I really can't talk about the IED investigation. But if you ask if I was asked, I was.
Okay, Lillian, you already asked them.
Well, I'm going to ask
Unless
another
y'all want
question.
to combine them together.
I mean, do you have any problems with me asking a question, Chief? I mean,
I don't. Look,
Trying
thank
to be
you.
fair to everybody.
yeah, I mean, yeah, we want to be fair, but I told you there'll be 2 rounds.
Yeah.
And maybe by the time we get to that end, y'all are all
And
good.
we're just trying to get clarification, so we quote him properly. We don't want to misquote him either. So that, like, this is all happening right as the chief is trying to form, the mayor, a new budget. He always deferred to Finner in terms of how many officers he would like to see. And one thing that Finner has said is, during this IED investigation, none of this changes the fact that the department's understaffed. Finner always used the word 2,000. He would like 2,000 more officers. Are you going to be working with the mayor now to help craft this new budget? Do you have a number you would like to see in terms of how many people, additional officers you would like to see? Do you get that privilege as acting, or is that going to be
Yes.
a permanent chief's role?
So the mayor, when I talked to him, was very, you know, demonstrated a lot of confidence in me, and I appreciate that. I really do. I'm honored to be in this role for however long that is, but I am an acting chief, not the chief. I am the chief now, just to be clear. I'll make the decisions as the chief, but sometime in the future, the mayor may select somebody different, and we all understand that. So, yes. For now, he is asking me to be totally a part of everything because we still have a police department to run and we have a public to protect. That cannot stop, you know, ever. People need our help. So yes, I will give him what I have based on my experience and what I think we need. I have also said many times 2,000, that number. I mean, we did a report years ago and the number was 1,400. I assure you the number's going up now. I would love to have 2,000 more officers today. I think there's so much more we could do for the public if we had them. It's going to take time.
But that's your number 2, 2,000.
I would I'm very comfortable with 2,000 right now. I don't want to sound greedy, but I'd take more if I could get them.
I want to talk about the people that are at the center of this investigation, the victims. You just took on a massive role in a massive police department that has a big investigation going on right now.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about how you feel as you are wrapping your head around this big sudden change and how you feel like this investigation may or may not change now that you're taking on this role, and kind of talk to the victims a little bit about that.
Let's start with the victims, okay? Because at the heart of this, they're the ones that matter the most. They're the ones we owe everything to, just like we owe everything to the public that needs our help. We owe it to the victims. So will the actual investigation change? I haven't looked at it close enough to give you a definitive answer on that. I think we have really great people that are working through all this. It is massive. I mean, 260,000 plus cases. It's massive because, again, that didn't stop everything that's still happening every day in the city of Houston. It's a big city, and a lot of things are happening, and we have a lot of bad actors out there that are doing bad things, and we need to bring them to justice too. So we have to do both. So it's massive. I have trust and faith in the team that's working on this. They're my colleagues, they're my friends. But certainly, it's my responsibility now to look even deeper into it. And if there's a way I can help, if there's a better idea, and that is, I am open to everybody, I will always take advice because I don't have all the answers. But if there's something I have to offer, then you bet. As chief, it's my job now.
So earlier today, the mayor said basically that it blew his mind that the SL code could have been used as many times as it was over so many years, and nobody blew the whistle, and nobody came forward. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, so we have always been challenged with personnel, and it's been reported often. These were things being brought to public years ago, so we've been short. But to do this with violent crimes is still hard for me to wrap my head around. I'll just tell you, to be honest. So there's work to be done. I mean, because I think we have great men and women, and I think we just had so much going on, and this happened. And as an agency, it's not one of our high times. It's one of our low times.
Abigail Dye, Fox 26. Do you want this position to be permanent? And if not, we know it's possible that it isn't, you know, as acting, but
Right.
do you want it to be permanent? And if not, what does the future hold for you?
I want to serve the public, and I love this police department. I love the men and women on this police department, and I've been through good times and bad, seen really awesome work and lives saved, and seen tragedy firsthand that I'll always have with me. But I still love this department. I love being a part of it. But that is for the mayor to decide whether it might someday, it might turn into being me on a full-time basis, or it might be somebody else. And I absolutely understand the situation that he is in making those decisions, because we've had this happen. And historically, if you look around the nation, when we have, when an agency goes through something like this, there's a strong desire to bring somebody in from the outside, quite honestly. Somebody that that you're not asking, were you ever part of this? Because they couldn't be. They weren't even here. And I understand that too. My responsibility and my duty is to the citizens of Houston and these men and women here, so I will leave that to the mayor.
Do you want to stay in this position, though? Is that your desire?
I'm still working through that. So, no, I think I would be honored to serve in a permanent capacity. I don't ever want you to think there's somebody standing up here that isn't honored to be here and everything else. And so I'm trying to probably insert a little bit of humility here. It would be great to be the chief, but I understand the real world, and I've been on a long time, and so I will live with whatever decision, you know, hoping that it's the right decision for all of you.
Do you think that Finner made the right decision stepping down and choosing to retire?
I can't really speak for Chief Finner. I really don't. I think that would be unfair for me to speak for him or even offer an opinion on that. I would ask that you go to him. I know, like I said, I've known him for 34 years, and so I think this is killing him. Not his, I mean, everything, right?
He inherited a lot of these issues that happened in a previous administration with what he chose to do with the information. As the acting chief right now, how do you think he handled it? Would you have handled things differently if you were in that position and you had known about that code?
See, I have to be careful because I have the benefit of hindsight that he did not have. So, yeah, now I can tell you definitively we'd have gone full force to what we're doing right now. But this is because we didn't know all these other things. And so, again, saying what I know that's a legitimate question to ask me, what would I do? I would like to think I'd have done a lot more, but then I'm trying to be realistic too. That let's just say I would hope that I'd have done a lot, but I do not envy the position that Chief Finner was in.
This is the man that promoted you, and now you're standing here. Can you talk about how difficult that is for
It's
you
hard.
right now?
It's hard. He's a friend. Troy's a friend. I don't mean to be disrespectful, but like I said, he's a friend, and so it is hard. It's hard in that regard. I didn't want to be standing here, certainly not under these circumstances. And I care about him, but I care about all the men and women of the police department because to be certain, there are other men and women in this department that are being impacted by this. And obviously there are investigations and everything and looking at this department wholly on that regard. But these are all people that I believe care very much for the public and have tried their best to take care of others. And so I do not sit in judgment of any of them. My job is to take care of them all. And also I will take care of Chief Finner in every way possible.
And my last question for you is you spoke about obviously looking in hindsight, but moving forward, what would lead anyone to believe that things are going to operate differently now with you calling the shots and with all of these now cases, police reports that they're investigating? Why are things going to be different now with you in charge?
I come from a very strong operational environment, and I think I have some ideas that I think will be very helpful, and I think they'll be much more effective. And it's not like we weren't talking about this in advance with the executive, with Chief Finner, things that we wanted to do. It's a challenge because of our lack of people, but I think making some moves will hopefully bring a little bit more effectiveness, getting investigators a little bit closer to the fields. I'm a decentralized guy. I just tell you right now, my philosophy is more of a flat organization where I have as many officers and detectives out there in the field as possible, working with the patrol officers, working with everybody to get things done. It's going to be a challenge. It takes time, but I'm just telling you, and doing this job as long as I have some ideas that I think will work. That doesn't mean that Chief Finner did not have good ideas. He had great ideas too. We all are working. I think I said earlier, I do not have all the answers, and I will listen. I will take advice, and reassess and reassess as often as possible to be effective. So I'd like to promise you that it's all going to be much better now. I'm going to do my best to make it better, and then we shall see.
Chief, good afternoon. I know it's bittersweet for you to be in this position, so I also know that law enforcement is probably a 50 type of position, so congratulations.
Thanks, sir.
Housekeeping. Who replaces you?
Still being worked out, and I have some ideas on that, but there are positions that have to be filled. Now I have the department, so my prior role as field operations executive assistant chief. Somebody's going to have to occupy that because it's a monster. It's in and of itself. Things are happening every day. Last night we had an officer hit in the middle of an intersection, so I was at the medical center at 10:30, which I still will do. But those men and women out there, they need somebody that's focused solely on what they're doing to be as effective as possible. So I'm making this a little bit longer. I haven't finalized who that's going to be and what that's going to look like, and will it be in an acting or a permanent capacity, meaning an appointment? I have to get back to you on that.
And I say housekeeping because I was just looking for a quick answer there, Chief.
Yeah, I'm sorry, and you got longer than you asked for.
No,
Sorry.
it's okay. Chandra Hatcher,
Yes.
we spoke to the mayor today.
Mhm.
He said that one of the issues, a big issue that he had in the last few days was that letter that she submitted to get this investigation completely started. The mayor also said that he had issues with regards to this email from 2018 because of what was portrayed and what is reality. Considering what has taken place and the concerns that the mayor has and others about that letter submitted by Executive Assistant Chief Hatcher regarding a meeting that you were briefly at and then you left, but she was not there. But yet she put this in writing to get this investigation launched. I'd like your thoughts on those actions as chief.
So I believe it's important to not make assumptions and not judge, and I think you would agree with me there. I have a fantastic relationship with Chief Hatcher, and I believe her heart is absolutely in the right place and always trying to do the right thing. Big heart. I know her. I think we have to wait and see how she explains that. I think she's owed that. Let her have the opportunity to explain how she might have written it in that form, and if maybe it makes sense, and maybe it doesn't. But I do think it's important that we at least afford her that opportunity. So for my part, I will give her, it's just like I would ask anybody to give me a chance to explain. Looks like I've been explaining today what I might remember, what I might not, from years before. And then you all will be the judge at that. Look, the public, the mayor will be the judge. We'll go through the process, and we'll come to some type of determination after that. I think mistakes can be made, but I don't know. I need to give everybody the opportunity to explain.
And if an executive assistant chief makes a mistake under your watch, will that person be treated as a patrol officer on the streets?
So here's the good news, Mario. I treat everybody the same. And I try to understand how things happen, because being the chief over field operations, I assure you, things happen fast in the field. Actions, car crashes, shootings, fights, things like that, conflict and use of force. All these things happen, and it's never neat and pretty. Okay, so I give all the men and women in the field, I will give my own executive staff the same rights, but as an agency, we have to hold everybody to the same standard. Yes. So we will listen. We will do an investigation. Everybody gets to explain why, how, what, including Chief Hatcher, and then we go from there. I just really don't want to get ahead of it.
Hi, I was wondering about the search for a potential new police chief.
I am so sorry. One more time.
Hi, I was wondering about the search for a potential new police chief. I was wondering what the timeline might look like on that, and if you're involved and what your priorities are in terms of looking.
So I am not involved, and I get to actually direct you to the mayor for that one, because I would have nothing to do with that. I mean, it's not that I wouldn't, but I mean, certainly if it's not me, I want the best chief possible, because that's what everybody deserves. And so obviously I would be a cheerleader for that, but no, the mayor, I mean, I don't know what timeline the mayor is on. That's for him. And so I would direct you to him. Yes, sir.
What sort of guidance were you given about taking over this position? I mean, it seems like the mayor was talking about a desire to sort of move on, get back to public safety. I mean, how is that balance? Changing one position is not a wholesale change in the way the department operates.
No, you're right. You're in a lot of ways, you're right. The men and women out there that are doing the jobs they're doing, they're still doing them. They were doing them yesterday, they're doing them today. Calls are still being ran, investigations are still happening, people are still filing reports. All those things, we're still on the freeways, doing all the things that I talked about earlier that we're trying to do to keep everybody safe. I think, so one person is going to make some change. I mean, I've been around a while, and I think I am very blessed, and I will tell you I had a lot of outreach, and I'm very thankful for that. So I'm very blessed to have a lot of support, and hopefully through that, we all can work even harder and do even more because the public needs it. The people out there need it. And so hopefully I can be a part of that and maybe be a little bit of a motivation for that. That's kind of where I have to be right now. I don't, to say that I'm not going to change the world, okay?
As kind of a follow-up to that, you were talking about ideas for kind of decentralizing, streamlining, getting people closer.
Yes.
Are things like reviving the investigative first responders unit?
So those are conversations that we've been having. And we just had an employee representative council meeting just a week or two ago where I talked about it a little bit more at length. It could be any number of names, or it could, I think we have some stations have already kind of embarking on that with patrol investigations units, which are essentially the same thing. I don't care what we call it. I personally like the idea of investigators closer to where things are happening, engaging and getting and having those daily dialogues with the men and women that are responding to the calls, taking that initial report that's going to end up at an investigator who will then take it and move forward. Right now, they write the reports, and those reports go to investigations on investigative special operations side of the house, not field operations, and they do the investigations. They do great work. But this is one of my things that I'm willing to go public with right now. So I think that would work better for us. So that's one of the things, while I have time and I'm in this seat, I'm going to try to do.
Jay or Jason, do y'all have any questions?
If you can talk to us about your priorities right now, considering the whole controversial stuff happening at the same time that you have to deal with public safety.
Well, I mean, I think it starts and stops with public safety. So both are incredibly important. The cases are important because there are bad actors that if we do the investigation, maybe we can identify, charge, and get a bad actor off the street, which makes everybody safe. At the same time, you know, we have a lot of problems out there in the city right now. It's a great city and fantastic people, but we have a lot of criminals out there roaming the streets. We have people that should not be out on multiple bonds, and this is about the department and this appointment to this acting position. But broadly speaking, you know, we really need help getting them off the streets. We need our domestic violence is really, it seems like of late, and it may be more anecdotal, but I'm reading those reports, I'm reading those readouts every day, and we have a lot of violence between couples and relationships, and people are dying out there. So we're going to be doing more things with that. You know, I'm going to meet with Hawk and our team and our victim services. We're going to do more messaging. We're going to do other things. I guess what I'm trying to say is both are incredibly important. There's what's happening, and there's bad guys out there. And however we identify and if they're guilty, or if we have the evidence that suggests we get a charge and detain and get them off the street, through what's happened broadly across the city, my priority is to protect the public. Violent crime has to lead the way, and then all the other things that, you know, other issues, because violent crime is huge, but we also have other problems that are affecting people's quality of life. The police department has to do lots of things because there are just a lot of needs.
I don't know if you can clarify as far as the timeline with the ongoing investigations, and I can't talk specifically about them, but as far as, just want to clarify, because I know one of them supposed, the IAD investigation finished last week, but then it restarted, as the mayor said, but I was hoping just to clarify where things stand as far as,
Yeah.
if they've been restarted, or they can, if any timeline as to when there might be completed.
Right. Well, I think, I don't want to get ahead of myself, get over my skis. I think that we are close. And yes, it was reopened, and a lot of it I saw, you know, in the media like y'all. So, but I mean, I think there was a few extra questions that emerged. I think we're close to the original look into how it was first started and how it kind of evolved into what it evolved into, and of course its use. Those things are pretty close, I think, to being concluded. I think there are spin-off investigations, and I think Chief Finner used that word. I'll use it too. Other things that have happened that we need to take a look at also, and those might take a little bit longer because there is a process involved as we go through our internal affairs, investigations, which is pretty consistent across the state, across the nation, honestly. So those may take a little longer, but we're working hard to get through that because we really need to stay singularly focused on protecting the public, and this is incredibly important to conclude. So, so everything is focused where it needs to be.
So what do we call you? Do we call you chief, acting chief, interim chief? What do we do?
I've never been big on titles. Okay. The title is acting chief. It used to be executive assistant chief, which is just a mouthful in itself, right? But normal conversation around the agency and around elsewhere in the city has usually been chief, just to make it easy. We all know it's acting chief, but you can call me whatever you want. Okay.
And as acting chief, if you find out that any of your command staff knew about this code being used over the past several years, do you think they should still be a part of your command staff?
So it just depends. There's so much more to that in terms of, what exactly, how was it presented? I mean, I'm trying to be fair to everybody. So to tell you exactly, if I find this out, boom, that's the deal, I can't tell you that right now. I have to look at everything objectively and make sure that I'm affording everybody the same rights and consideration that I would for, everybody that's been in my command in field operations. So I don't have an answer right there for you, and just understand that. In time, changes could occur, but I will tell you, I'm not a big blame guy. I really am. I'm not. We as an agency, as a department, on this one, failed.
And just to piggyback, if I could, off the progress question that we had earlier, we have this big number, 260,000. Do we have a good number to give the public now as to how far we are into looking at those cases?
I start naming numbers and I'll be wrong. But can I get back to you on that? I think we can put something out to kind of give you an idea of where we are. Again, it always sounds like an excuse when I say I don't know and I'm still learning, but I simply am still learning, trying to make sure I want to give out accurate information.
At any point in your career, would it have been standard operating procedure for you to read through the SOPs and know what codes are being applied to reports and how?
It's possible. Yeah, I mean, at some point we have levels of supervision that review the standard operating procedures and look at all things that go into that. There's a lot of trust in that. We put the right people in the right places and then follow up. Trust but verify kind of thing. So yeah, throughout my career, I've read SOPs. Nobody on this department. Everybody on this department has read standard operating procedures. And looking that deeply into it, it usually is on something like that on the investigation side. Everybody in investigations typically sees something of that nature. But I would also say, I could very easily, I can't tell you, I've not even seen the investigations SOPs. I've been on 34 years. I mean, it's very conceivable I've seen stuff like that and just didn't register it or something. I don't know. Again, I don't want to say something that's wrong. You deserve the truth. I simply don't know.
Okay, Mario, last question.
Chief Satterwhite, for clarification purposes, and you knew Chief Finner very well.
I did.
You spent a lot of time with him during the course of the weeks and days in your role. And you stood with him on February 22nd when he had the initial news conference. And at that news conference, he indicated to all of Houston that he learned that the code was being used again on February 7th of this year. But in hearing you earlier, you said you had realized that the code was being used at the end of 2023. Can you explain how you, in your position, and knowing the significance of your role in the department and the interactions with Chief Finner, that you did not convey that to Chief Finner in last year?
So, and this is the problem, because it seems like sometime at the end of the year I heard something about this, but that might have been a one-time kind of thing, and I just don't know. But it seems like I heard that, and I know that it was later that the magnitude of it was discovered. I don't even think on February 7th I knew the magnitude of it, but I just want to say it seems like there was something to that, something like that. Maybe it was January, maybe it was February. That's the problem here, is that I'm trying to struggle on exactly when and what it was I actually might have heard or not. And so I don't want it to sound like I just don't know.
No, I understand, Chief, but when you tell us, you're talking to Houstonians live on television right now,
Right.
and you say that you were aware of this code being used last year, and then we ask you the question again, and you come back and say, well, I think I heard, I'm not so sure. We just went through this the last 3 months.
Right. No, and I don't want to be going back through that where you're getting misinformation. I really, like I said, I want to say maybe something was that I'd heard something, and maybe it was on a specific case or something like that towards the end of the year, beginning of the year. I just simply don't know. So now we're going back. So what you're asking is, I don't know, and so I can't pin anything down. Maybe.
Why wasn't it escalated, Chief? Why did you not convey that to Chief Finner?
I don't know. Like I said, I didn't. I'm at that point where I guess I didn't register. I'm going on recall right now, but I don't remember specifically about this. It seems like it was the end of the year, beginning of the year, and that might be what I might be recalling is a case that emerged that we were looking into, and maybe the facts of that case were coming out during that time, and that might be why I said end of the year, beginning of the year. But I know I said the understanding what exactly was happening was not really, did not come about until later in the year when, so I am sorry. It's not like I knew that we were suspending cases and doing all these things, and for lack of manpower and sexual assaults. I didn't know any of those things. I don't mean to be, inaccurate. I'm just telling you that it seems like end of the year, beginning of the year is what I want to say, something on that, which would have been, with all that we had going on in January, it could have been early February. I'm sorry, but it seems like it's somewhere in that time frame.
Based on, sorry, just real quick, thinking about that, based on those conversations, do you think that February 7th was the first time Chief Finner had heard about it, or when you first heard about it, was he part of those conversations?
After he heard about it, he really started talking about it. So somewhere in there. I mean, I apologize for not being totally prepared, but I'm just telling you, that was months ago, and we're already deep into this. And it's, like I said, I'm thinking about a case when I say I heard something about it, but I don't know for a fact, and I don't mean to be wrong on that. So please forgive.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, Chief.